plugged in, something about addicted to the energy flow or something, I don't know.
Me too, I didn't recognize it last week. I'm lazy sometimes.
It's not hard, just hold the thing underneath, so the belt, not too loud, just a couple of. I know you feel like whacking it, not too loud. You don't.
I know.
You,
The weather,
think so.
it must be the weather.
Chuck's never done that.
Well,
He's
there's
just
Chuck
the bell a
and
couple
Kelly,
times.
right, well, and Jim and Kathy, aren't they at a wedding in Kentucky or something like that?
South
Carolina
or something,
yeah.
something like that.
Whatever it is.
Yeah.
And, Dan's,
Stephanie, they still sick?
well, Annabelle's not, she wanted to stay home and take care of them.
Oh.
29.
Look, there's.
No. You might.
Right. You're good. You're good, kid.
It's
I
10:30
would have
now.
just, even knowing that it needed to be done. There are certain oh, she asked us.
It's 10:30 now.
Just for temporary.
You may ring the bell.
Just one?
3.
3, 2, or 3.
You can do as many.
On a
as you
training.
want.
Yeah. Our gathering song is in the Teal Book, number 1069, Ancient Mother. And once you have it open, I'll play it through and then we'll sing it twice.
Ancient Mother, I hear you calling. Ancient Mother, I hear your song. Ancient Mother, I feel your laughter. Ancient Mother, I taste your tears. Ancient Mother, I hear you calling. Ancient Mother, I hear your song. Ancient Mother, I feel your laughter. Ancient Mother, I taste your tears. Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to all, and welcome especially to all of our visitors and members who are online this morning. We're glad that you're here. We are also holding in our thoughts those that are traveling, such as Kelly, Chuck, Kathy, and Jim, and probably some other people that I have forgotten or do not know, but we are all here present and enjoying our time spiritually together. My name is Brian, for those that may not know me, and today we have a very special guest that we look forward to, hopefully as a tradition every year. Hannah is going to be talking with us today, and so we're really glad that you're here. Also, we offer our words of appreciation for Linda, who is our leader for today. Thank you for ringing the bell so eloquently. We appreciate that. Sorry. Okay. Keep your composure, Brian. All right. So for those of you that are interested, just so you know, we don't take up an offering. We have a plate in the back in case anybody wants to give, but we don't sit here and expect that. We also have a jar. We don't. I look around every day to see where it is. We have a jar. If you happen to have change, we collect change for charity and we give to local charities from that. We only have, after today, 2 more Sundays in our regular church year. Next Sunday, we're going to have Karen Wills from the UU to come and talk about UU the Vote. I'm going to actually be speaking, but she and I are going to coordinate, and she's going to talk to us, so I'm going to incorporate that into what's going on. So we're excited about that. And then on May the 19th, which is our last Sunday of the regular church year, is Music Sunday. And we've, several of us have been practicing and planning on having a great musical day that day. Any other announcements that people might have that they'd like to share with us this morning?
Next week is our council meeting, if anybody wants to join.
Oh, sure, yes.
9 o'clock.
Thank you. Usually Kelly has a couple of announcements, so we miss you, Kelly. This is always a time for me to pause and catch my breath. Well, with that, what I'd like to do then is to welcome us all into this time of fellowship together. Take a deep breath, rid yourself as much as possible of the chaos around all of us, and center ourselves and enter into a time of meditation with this musical prelude. I invite us to remain seated for our opening words, and they're from number 546, but they're printed on the screen here. Through dreary, sodden days, the fields sponged up the graying skies.
And now the sun lies soft as earth again, as if the earth had just begun.
And blossoms on the vines designed in spring come out to sing again.
And everywhere ripening pushes fallen leaves apart, free from harsh and refreshing.
As through the seasons of our years,
Becoming often wastes the nourishment of tears.
in the spirit of springtime, renewal and hope, we light this chalice as a community. and say together,
May
may the light we now kindle inspire us to use our powers, to heal with love, to help with compassion, to bless with joy, to serve you, spirit of freedom, in the fullness of community. And now we come together for hymn number 175.
I will play through it so you can hear it, okay?
Please rise as you're able. Please be seated. Friends, we pause now during our service to acknowledge that we now stand and sit upon the traditional territories of the indigenous people, the Dakota, for whom this very county and congregation are named, and at least 10 other tribes of native people throughout the current borders of the state of Minnesota. Over hundreds of years, native communities across the Americas have demonstrated resilience and resistance in the face of violent efforts to separate them from their land, culture, and each other. Today, indigenous people remain at the forefront of movements to protect Mother Earth and the life she sustains, along with the preservation of their own human cultures and traditions. We acknowledge that it is critical to be an active part of public intervention, taking necessary steps toward honoring indigenous communities and enacting the much larger project of decolonization and reconciliation. May this weekly acknowledgement be not only a reminder, but even more so, an inspirational call to action, to work to ensure whatever reparations are possible be carried out throughout this ancient holy land we all now call home. At this time during the service is when we invite those who are interested to come and light a candle and share a joy and or a concern. And at the end, for all of those unspoken joys and concerns, I will light a final candle as well.
Do I stick it in the sand?
You light it and then stick it.
It's not like there's instructions.
Oh, yeah.
Chalice.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. We should have instructions.
Just a little sheet right there. Or at least a picture diagram.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
You're clear. Contract IKEA to build it out.
So it took me a little bit to get up the nerve
But so a friend of mine were talking, and they mentioned they go to a UU church down in Rochester. They were talking about it. I was like, okay, that sounds interesting. So I was like, but I'm not going to Rochester. And it turns out this is 7 minutes from my house.
Welcome.
So I thought I'd show up, but I did take a little bit of mental gaming because I'm an atheist.
You're not alone.
And I saw and was like, and I just lost my job on Thursday. And I was like, okay, I need something to do. I need a community. I need how do I find volunteering in the Minnesota Twin Cities volunteer site's a little overwhelming. And I remember my mother always got great joy out of church crafting groups. This was I go to this group's Facebook page, and the first thing I see is a Pride event. I'm like, okay, I think I could show up. Then I still had to convince myself that it was okay to ask for help. So I guess by joys I did it. I showed up. And I'm pretty glad I did.
I'm going to light two. One for Nira Rajan, who's in the back, who is on another fantastic step of her journey of resisting and recovering from cancer. And the other is to her son, who's also in the back, who's an amazing person who just won the Goldwater Scholarship at the University of Minnesota for doing amazing biotech work. I'm so glad they're here.
I'm gonna do a little joy. I guess I suppose this feels kind of insignificant after the wonderful ones of everybody else, but mine is that I'm in the midst of the synchronized swimming season at my high school, and on Friday we got first and second place at the meet in my routines, so I'm feeling very happy about that.
I'm gonna be quick, but I have two. I only had one, but now I have two. Because one is for you, for being here and doing that.
I have an inability to shut up, and if people don't volunteer, I will volunteer.
Note taken.
Well, I'm glad you're here, and it was inspiring. And the other candles for my friend Deb, who is losing her battle in hospice. What is that?
I'm just gonna light one. I'm gonna try not to cry. It's a joy. And I just want to light one to honor the ability of families to, instead of breaking, learning to change and grow together.
Knowing we might have to call the fire department soon, I'm still going to light two. One is for a former member here, but still in our hearts, Mo Johnson. Deb and I were at the service for her son, Brett, who died from accidental drowning, and now this is for incredibly strong family. That it was incredible service, and I won't say more or I'll start crying. But I was so proud of them, and I'm also really proud. This will be one for my brother and sister, who's both have birthdays on Tuesday, 7 years and 7 minutes apart on May 7th. My brother, who's estranged from me, but I bless him and I'm happy for him, and it's all as it should be. and my sister, who's been really struggling. And the best thing that's happening on her birthday is she's going in for a complete 4-hour neuro exam. So I'm very hopeful that that might give her some answers and a new life, maybe. So.
We don't have many. All right. Okay, this is a joy for being here. I'm so grateful to be providing music here. And I recently quit the job that I had started, and it sounds like I'm a quitter, but I'm not. I've done this work for 30 years. I've done music therapy for 30 years, but it just isn't my passion anymore. And I was working with Alzheimer's dementia, people with Alzheimer's, and it takes a lot of energy. If you've never worked, Brian and I have talked, and I mean, it just takes a lot, and I quit. So 6 more days there, and I hope to write music this summer and do a lot of playing. Gotta do what your passion is, what your heart says, what your soul says.
We're running out of candles, so I'm gonna light one for two. The first one is a joy. My cousin just got married. That's where my parents are. They're down in North Carolina. He just got married. And then my wife, my daughter, and I have been sick for the last 2 weeks. And going in and out of the doctor with pneumonia, strep throat, and bronchitis, and sinus infections, all in the house at the same time, and we are all finally ending it.
You need to light that up.
Okay, well, he's got to light one for all the ones to be removed.
Well, if there, we'll get more.
All right, I'll light the other one for that.
Yeah. We have more. Do you need to, does anybody to get up and?
Yeah, we got boxes and boxes of them.
Yep.
That's the first time we had to get more candles, so there you go.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, good.
Oh, the final candle.
That's why I was gonna say the one.
Well, so I have joys and concerns to share, but I'm going, wrapped up in this candle are going to be those two and the final candle as well. So first I will say that I was inspired when you came up, and I'm so glad that you're here, because last night I was out with some friends and I was wearing a Pride t-shirt, and I was coming out of a gay bar, and I saw this group of people, mostly elderly women, and I was like, oh, here we go. I'm so used to being from Florida that I would have been accosted. And this woman walked to me, and I'm going to try not to cry, and she says, I love your shirt. I can't wait to see you at the Pride Festival. And I looked at her, I said, oh, well, thank you very much. She's like, in my 83 years, I've never missed a Pride Festival since I've been an adult. So I was really inspired. So you inspired me to share that story, which I wasn't going to, but since I'm not preaching today, I had to give you a mini sermon. All right, so, and the second is a joy as well. The universe apparently has opened up itself and made a way where I think we found a farm, and I believe that it's going to happen. So I'm really excited about that.
We'll expect eggs.
Yeah, that won't take long, I promise. I've already got volunteers who want to donate chickens. So I will light a final candle for all those joys and concerns that remain unspoken. May we know that whatever befalls us in life, we are held in the loving embrace of this community. And now we say together, for all of these joys and concerns, both spoken and unspoken, we hold you in our hearts. And now it's my distinct honor and pleasure to turn this service over to Hannah. Welcome.
Okay. I have two quick little thank yous before I start, which is first, thank you for all for being here. Second is thank you. Darn technical difficulties. And second is thank you for having me to speak for you. And yeah. Oh, thank you. We'll get to this later and it'll make more sense in like 2 seconds. But somebody had to count all this rice, which will make more sense, and that was Denise. So thank you for counting the 170 grains of rice. That will make more sense in a couple seconds. Okay, so yeah. When my grandpa Jack passed away, my dad inherited his beloved sailboat, a vessel held together by duct tape and twine, infused with memories of Jack's love for sailing. Despite never meeting him, I embarked on a journey inspired by his passion, learning the ropes of sailing at Bear Paw Scout Camp. These experiences taught me invaluable lessons in resilience and teamwork, preparing me for a different kind of voyage, the fight against climate change. Just like my Grandpa Jack's sailboat was held together by duct tape and twine, our planet seems to be patched up with temporary fixes against the looming threat of climate change. Like a sinking ship, the urgency of our situation demands swift and decisive action to prevent catastrophe. We have all seen the statistics of climate change. Global temperature rise. The average global temperature has risen approximately 1.2 degrees Celsius, or 2.2 degrees Fahrenheit, since the late 19th century. This might seem like a small increase, but it has significant implications for weather patterns, sea levels, and ecosystems worldwide. Carbon dioxide levels. Atmospheric carbon dioxide, CO2, levels have reached unprecedented numbers in human history. Currently, CO2 concentrations are over 410 parts per million, significantly higher than pre-industrial level of 280 parts per million. This increase is primarily due to the burning of fossil fuels, deforestation, and other human activities. Decline in Arctic sea ice. The Arctic region is warming at more than twice the global average rate, leading to rapid decline in Arctic sea ice. Since 1979, satellite records have shown a decrease in Arctic sea ice extent of about 13.1% per decade. This loss of ice not only contributes to rising sea level, but also has cascading effects on global weather patterns and ecosystems. The peril we face is colossal, stretching far beyond mere statistics. Picture, if you will, the 7.9 billion souls on this planet, each one imperiled by the looming specter of climate catastrophe. It's not just about us. It's about the intricate web of life that we're all part of. From the tiniest microorganisms to the mightiest creatures, all are threatened by the encroaching devastation. The impacts on biodiversity are nothing short of cataclysmic. As habitats disappear and ecosystems unravel, we stand on the precipice of a silent extinction event. Scientists estimate that the current rate of species extinction is between 1,000 and 10,000 times higher than the natural background rate. This means that species are disappearing at an alarming pace, with many experts suggesting we are currently in the midst of the Earth's sixth mass extinction event, primarily driven by human activities, such as habitat destruction, pollution, and, of course, climate change. The urgency of action cannot be overstated. Every moment of inaction brings us closer to the brink of irreversible loss. Every second we waste, we lose a species that we will never get back. We cannot shrink our responsibility. The correlation between human activity and climate change is indisputable. Historical CO2 levels before the Industrial Revolution atmospheric CO2 levels were relatively stable for thousands of years at around 280 parts per million. Current CO2 levels. Since the Industrial Revolution, primarily due to the burning of fossil fuels such as coal, oil, and natural gas, as well as deforestation and other human activities, atmospheric CO2 levels have risen dramatically. As of recent measurements, CO2 concentrations have surpassed 410 parts per million and continue to increase. Direct link to human activity. The increase in CO2 concentrations is directly attributable to human activities, particularly the burning of fossil fuels for energy, transportation, and industrial processes. The CO2 acts as a greenhouse gas, trapping heat in the Earth's atmosphere and leading to global warming and climate change. Our collective actions have set in motion a cascade of events accumulating in what can only be described as a massacre. Slow, agonizing demise of our planet and all who inhabit it. Imagine, if you will, a sinking ship, an allegory for our planet teetering on the brink of collapse. Each carbon emission, akin to a leak in the hull, threatens to hasten our descent into oblivion. It's a sobering reminder of the monumental challenge we face, a challenge that demands nothing short of bold, transformative action. As of recent measurements, the atmospheric concentration of carbon dioxide is approximately 410 parts per million. Climate deniers or apologists try to discount this by pointing out that that's only 0.000112227 tons of carbon per kilogram in the air. This may seem small, but when considering the entire mass of Earth's atmosphere, it amounts to a significant quantity of carbon. In fact, it amounts to 5.78 trillion tons of carbon. That's a 10 with 14 zeros behind it. The sheer magnitude of carbon emissions presents a formidable obstacle in our quest for climate restoration. With billions of tons of greenhouse gases already saturating our atmosphere, the scale of the problem is daunting, if not overwhelming. We find ourselves grappling with a crisis of unprecedented proportions, one that defies easy solutions and demands a concentrated global effort. Let's go back to the boat. Think of each strategy as a different sized container. You've got a Dixie cup. The person next to you has a thimble. You're both trying to scoop the water out of the boat and throw it overboard. In this situation, you are either A, arguing over whose container is going to get rid of the most water the fastest, or B, working together, using your different containers and trying to get all the water out, and failing miserably. You're failing because both containers are too small. You have a giant boat, and you're trying to take the water out with a thimble, with a Dixie cup. There are already 3 million metric tons of CO2 in the environment. Our brains simply can't grasp the scale of the problem. Our biggest enemy is the sheer amount of carbon, which is 3 trillion metric tons. Have you ever seen a trillion of anything? Close your eyes and visualize 5 of something, 10 of something, 15. Now visualize a trillion. It's hard, right? Nearly impossible. Now visualize 1 trillion tons of invisible gas. That's another part of the problem. We can't even see it. Our biggest enemy is invisible. Water in our sinking boat is easier to visualize than CO2, let alone 1 trillion tons of CO2. So I'm going to try and help you grasp just how much CO2 is currently in the environment right now, which is my rice metaphor. We have bear with me as I sort through my different grains. This is a grain of rice. For the sake of this activity, this grain of rice represents 5 million tons, which is a scale factor of 200 billion. 5 million metric tons is a lot. That is 13.5 Empire State Buildings. This is 6 grains of rice. And the total yearly CO2 emissions of the Twin Cities. That is 75 Empire State Buildings, 4.5 giant pyramids of Giza, 1,000 statues of liberty. All of the skyscrapers in New York City are approximately 850 million tons. That is 170 grains of rice. That's a little over half a teaspoon. The land beneath New York City can't hold the sheer amount of pressure being exerted on it. Like the title of a May 26 article from Scientific American, quote, "New York City is sinking under its own weight," unquote. BBC article writes that according to the study published in May, New York City is sinking by 1 to 2 millimeters, or 0.04 to 0.08 inches per year, which may not seem like a lot, but adding sea level rise, that is the effect of these 170 grains of rice. Fortunately, from here, the numbers only get bigger. This is 1,200 grains of rice, about 1/8 of a cup, representing 6 billion tons, the average US carbon emissions per year. For those of you still trying to conceptualize, this is 15,000 Empire State Buildings, 900 giant pyramids of Giza, 200,000 statues of liberty. Every year, just from the United States. Now, there's 8,000 grains of rice, which is about 2.5 cups, represents 40 billion tons, which is equivalent to the total world emissions in a year. 2.5 cups from the world, that is 6,000 giant pyramids of Giza, all of the top 1,000 skyscrapers around the world. It's pretty insane, am I right? So when we talk about safe levels of carbon in the atmosphere, the 280 parts per million, we're talking about a 10-pound bag of rice. That is the level nature, as we know it, has evolved with. That is considered safe for nature as we know it. This is what is considered safe for humans. So what about the air today? It's about 2 pallets of rice, which is equivalent to 150-pound bags. The current amount of carbon today. I wanted to buy that much rice as an example for all of you, but it would cost nearly $5,000. According to Amazon, it's $5,300, and my dad didn't quite have the cash flow for that. So we had no way to bring 2 pallets of rice to you, but we did think about it. Now, you might be thinking, there's no way we can get a number larger than this. Add to those 2 pallets of 50-pound bags of rice another 10-pound bag, because that is the goal of net zero by 2050. 584 trillion, 200 billion tons of carbon. That's the goal. Safe is this. global levels over 2 pallets. How is that good enough? How is that good enough? A scale factor of over 400. How is that good enough? Can you see how the threat now is the sheer size of the problem? Net zero is 400 times too much. How is it reasonable? It's not nearly enough. In the face of such daunting odds, our solutions must match the scale of the problem. We cannot afford half measures or incremental changes. We need bold, visionary strategies capable of effecting transformative change on a global scale. Whether through technological innovation, policy reform, or grassroots activism, we must rise to the occasion and confront the climate crisis with the urgency and determination it deserves. So now we have our existing mitigation strategies. Let's take a closer look at the top 5 strategies we've employed thus far to combat climate change. 1 is, first, the transition to renewable energy. We need to accelerate the shift from fossil fuels to renewable energy sources like solar, wind, hydroelectric, and geothermal power. Second, energy efficiency improvements. We can and must enhance energy efficiency across various sectors of infrastructure, such as transportation, buildings, and industry, to lower energy consumption and emissions. The third strategy is forest and land conservation. We need to do a much better job protecting and restoring forests, wetlands, and ecosystems to sequester carbon dioxide and preserve biodiversity. Fourth, carbon pricing and market mechanisms. This entails implementing carbon pricing mechanisms such as carbon taxes or cap and trade systems to incentivize emissions reduction. But the argument can be made that carbon credits are equivalent to rearranging deck chairs on our metaphorical boat. High-margin companies can just buy the right to pollute. This might make some money for more efficient companies, but petroleum companies have resources to burn. Finally, we have climate resilience and adaptation. We need to build resilience to climate impacts and adapt to changes through investments in infrastructure that is resilient to the impacts of climate change as well as disaster preparedness. What do all of these have in common? 2 things. First, all of them will help us reduce and offset the carbon we're putting into the air. All of them will help us stop the water from pouring into our boat. But second, not one of them will address the problem of the existing carbon in the air. None of them will meaningfully remove the carbon that's already there. Climate restoration refers to efforts and strategies aimed at reversing or mitigating the impacts of climate change by restoring the Earth's climate systems to a healthier and more stable state. It involves addressing the root causes of climate change, such as greenhouse gas emissions, while also focusing on restoring natural ecosystems, biodiversity, and ecological processes that have been disrupted or degraded. The stated purpose is to enable the survival and flourishing of humans by restoring an atmosphere level of CO2 that humans have survived long term. The method is to remove 1 trillion tons of excess CO2 from the atmosphere. Projected outcome is to return atmospheric CO2 levels and average global temperature to pre-industrial levels. Climate restoration encompasses a wide range of actions, including reducing greenhouse gas emissions, enhancing carbon sequestration and storage, conserving and restoring natural habitats, and promoting resilience to climate change impacts. It recognizes the interconnectedness of human activities with the Earth's climate and ecosystems, and seeks to restore balance and sustainability to these systems. In essence, climate restoration aims to repair the damage caused by human-induced climate change and create conditions that support a more resilient and sustainable future for both people and the planet. To grasp the essence of climate restoration, consider our planet as a sinking ship besieged by leaks. Mitigation efforts akin to patching up the holes are essential for stemming the flow of destruction. However, without restoration, bailing out the water and repairing the vessel's structural integrity, we risk eventual capsizing. Mitigation focuses on reducing carbon emissions and preventing further harm, while restoration entails actively reversing the damage already done. Both strategies are indispensable in our fight against climate change, serving as complementary pillars upon which our collective survival depends. Climate restoration strategies are not those that attempt to capture carbon as it is spewing out of a smokestack and put it into a high-pressure pipeline and pump it into caverns underground. That is greenwashing. It's not a permanent solution. Land-based carbon efforts are short-lived. Most biocarbon on land is exposed to oxygen and rots in a matter of days or decades. Wildfires can turn whole forests back into CO2 in a blink. Land-based efforts are also competing with land use for other functions, like growing food. Land-based efforts are essential for a healthy ecosystem and restoring balance. They do not permanently remove carbon from the air, and they are not scalable to address the underlying problem. Authentic climate restoration strategies that truly address the trillion-ton elephant in the room must meet the following criteria. 1. Permanence. This means that the CO2 removed by the strategy stays securely out of circulation for at least a century. 2. Scalability. This means that the climate restoration strategy could be scaled up within a decade to remove and permanently store at least 25 gigatons of CO2 per year. 3. Financeability. This means that funding for the technology is already available or is ready to be mobilized. Climate restoration method is particularly financeable when it's producing something that can satisfy a large existing market. Let's take a moment to clarify our terms, particularly the common understanding of the word restoration in the context of environmental action. The word restoration is most commonly used for solutions to problems on a more localized or regional scale. Some common restoration-based strategies are forests and land conservation and the transition to renewables. There are others. Restoring and conserving our oceans. Protecting and restoring marine ecosystems plays a crucial role in climate restoration. Healthy oceans serve as carbon sinks, absorbing and storing significant amounts of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. Soil carbon sequestration. Implementing practices that enhance soil health and carbon sequestration can contribute to restoration efforts. Restoring degraded soils and adopting sustainable land management practices can enhance carbon storage capacity and support agricultural resilience to climate change. Blue carbon restoration. Blue carbon ecosystems, including coastal wetlands such as salt marshes, seagrass meadows, and mangrove forests, have significant potential for carbon sequestration and storage. Restoring and conserving these coastal habitats not only protects against coastal erosion and storm surges, but also enhances carbon sequestration rates. These strategies are important as they address different aspects of the Earth's natural systems and enhance their capacity to mitigate climate change impacts. Each offers a ray of hope in our battle against climate change. Yet again, what do they have in common? The same stark reality of their limitations. These efforts alone are insufficient to stem the tide of destruction. These are among the solutions, along with mitigation solutions, that are described as the way to get to net zero. Perhaps they will, but therein lies the problem. Even at net zero, it will still take 58,276 years for the level of CO2 in the air to return to safe levels. How is that good enough? The simple answer? It's not. Net zero is not enough. We have to change the narrative. While these efforts have great value in their rights and should be applauded, we must acknowledge the inadequacies of these approaches when it comes to the scale of climate restoration. We must recognize that in this context, they represent mere band-aids on a gaping wound. While they may offer temporary relief or regional benefits, they fail to address the underlying systemic issues driving the climate crisis. As such, we must chart a new course, one that transcends the confines of conventional wisdom and embraces bold, transformative action. In his seminal book, Climate Restoration, Peter Fikowski proposes 5 authentic strategies he believes meet the criteria we have explored. Peter is an astrophysicist and likes strategies that were invented and honed by Mother Nature, approaches known as biomimicry. These descriptions are paraphrased from his book. Synthetic limestone manufacture. By mimicking the natural formation of limestone, this method captures CO2 emissions and permanently stores them as synthetic limestone, which can be used in concrete, keeping carbon out of the air permanently. Seaweed permaculture. Seaweed permaculture harnesses the rapid growth of kelp and other seaweeds. These underwater forests historically absorbed significant CO2 while providing vital habitat for marine life. Ocean iron fertilization. Ocean iron fertilization mimics the natural process that has historically cooled the earth. It is hypothesized that by dispersing iron dust into the ocean, photosynthesis in phytoplankton will accelerate. Methane oxidization. It is predicted that by using ship smokestacks to spread harmless iron chlorides over the ocean, we can rapidly accelerate how methane breaks down quickly, affordably, and at scale. This is an incredible tool for promoting global environmental stewardship. Will these 4 work? Let's test them. Will they scale? Let's test them. Are they financeable? Let's market them. Navigating the complex terrain of climate restoration requires keen understanding of existing legal frameworks and resolutions. From the international agreements to local bills, these laws serve as guiding principles in our quest for environmental justice. By familiarizing ourselves with these regulations, we can ensure that our actions remain within ethical and legal bounds. Ethics lies at the heart of climate restoration, guiding our moral compass as we navigate the murky waters of environmental stewardship. From equitable distribution of resources to safeguarding the rights of marginalized communities, ethical considerations must permeate every facet of our decision-making process. Only by upholding the highest ethical standards can we truly achieve lasting and equitable solutions to the climate crisis. The pursuit of climate restoration is not without its risks and trade-offs. In our zeal to effect change, we must acknowledge the inherent complexities and uncertainties in our endeavors. While striving for perfection may be noble, it is often impractical in the face of real-world constraints. Thus, we must approach our efforts with humility and pragmatism, accepting that progress may come at a cost and that difficult decisions lie ahead. In the face of an existential threat, unity is our greatest weapon. Collaboration among diverse stakeholders, whether advocating for mitigation, restoration, or a combination of both, is paramount to our success. By pooling our resources and expertise, we can harness the collective power needed to effect meaningful change. Yet, the path to consensus is fraught with challenges. Divergent viewpoints, conflicting interests, and entrenched ideologies often hinder progress, leading to stalemates and inertia. Overcoming these obstacles requires humility, empathy, and willingness to engage in constructive dialogue. We must remember that a compromise leaves everyone a little unsatisfied, but at least the end goal is met. Amidst the cacophony of discord, it's crucial to remember our shared purpose: climate restoration. Regardless of our approaches or preferences, we all share a common destiny intertwined with the fate of our planet. By keeping this overarching goal at the forefront of our minds, we can transcend petty divisions and work toward a future where humanity and nature thrive in harmony. We all know that we should leave our room, the kitchen, the woods cleaner than we found it. We know we need to remove nitrates and phosphates from the soil, chloride E. coli from the water, and invasive species from the forest. Let us also commit to removing the carbon from the air. Accepting the current carbon levels is immoral. Let's commit to removing 180,000 parts per billion of CO2 from the atmosphere. As we draw this homily to a close, let us not forget the urgency of the task before us. The clock is ticking, and every moment of inaction brings us closer to the precipice of irreversible harm. We cannot afford to delay. The time for decisive action is now. Just as a theater production requires the collective efforts of actors, crew members, and directors, so too does our quest for climate restoration demand collaboration and solidarity. Each of us plays a vital role in this grand production, and it is only through working together that we can hope to achieve success. In closing, let us heed the call to action that resounds within our hearts. Let us refuse to succumb to the inertia that threatens to paralyze us in the face of crisis. Instead, let us stand together as stewards of our planet, united in purpose and resolve. For only by confronting the challenges before us with courage and determination can we hope to secure a brighter, more sustainable future for generations to come. The time for action is now. Let us rise to the occasion and meet the challenges of our time with unwavering resolve. We want to stop the problem before people get hurt, but before the massacre that is climate change takes place. But don't you see? It's already happening. Right now, there are over 100 million climate refugees. More than 1 million species are at risk of extinction because of the warming Earth. Don't you see? We can't stop people from getting hurt. It's too late. People are already hurting. And we're not just doing it for us. We're doing it for them and for all the other living things on Earth, for our grandkids and their grandkids and their grandkids. Don't you see? I have 2 more things to leave you with. First is a few things you can do right now. 3 things, in fact. 1, help make climate restoration a priority of the National Isaac Walton League of America. I'm a proud member of the Minnesota Valley chapter of the Isaac Walton League. We have made climate restoration a priority. The Minnesota division has made climate restoration a priority. Help me make it a priority. Use your voice. Second is use your voice to influence our government's actions. Help me make Minnesota the 2nd state in the country to adopt the climate restoration framework. 3, work with me to educate people about climate restoration and the urgency of our situation. Help make my voice heard, because I don't just speak for myself, but for all the young adults who are trying to find a way to cope in a collapsing world. Climate anxiety is the reason that the Green Crew exists. Support us. Work with Joseph to build investor support for climate restoration strategies. Share this message, whether it be through a speech, a presentation, or heck, even a book club. Finally, I reached the end of my speech and cannot help but reflect on a childhood memory. I've always been a very anxious kid. I was scared of so many things, but one of my greatest fears was the sun. Yes, the sun. I used to be afraid of the sun exploding. My mother and father made sure to assure me that the sun would not explode. It will, in approximately 5 million years, become a giant red star, which may very well destroy the world. But that won't happen for 5 million years. Now, the younger me, being an anxious kid, was still quite scared of the sun and what it meant. The inevitable end of the world, no matter how far away that end might be. 8-year-old me also knew that the sun causes skin cancer if you don't put on sunscreen. What 8-year-old me did not know was that something else was already killing me. Slowly, excruciatingly slowly, and invisibly. I used to be afraid that the sun was going to explode. But now I know that's not what's going to kill me. What's going to kill me is greenhouse gases, carbon dioxide, the very thing I breathe out of my lungs. It's inevitable, unless we do something, right now. I know it's possible. I have to believe it's possible. I know what we have to do and what we're dealing with. And I've told you how we make it possible. Sure, we don't have a set solution, one end-all answer, but we've got a plan of how to start, and we'll learn as we go. So why aren't we doing it? Why are we still arguing over which solution is better, over what will work and what won't? That is what truly makes no sense to me at all. Because the only thing worse than denying that the boat is sinking is knowing it's going down, arguing, screaming, crying, and therefore doing nothing at all. But that's not what we're going to do. We're going to face this head on, and I know where to start. By changing the accepted narrative. Net zero is not the goal. It's not enough. It's just a step in the process toward authentic climate restoration. I invite you to join me in sharing this new story, the story of a future where humanity and natural systems on which we depend will thrive and flourish. Thank you.
Okay, I have the perfect piece of music to play. Keep that image of the dolphin in your mind as I play dolphin dance.
It is during this time of the service that we typically do a congregational reflection. I really want to appreciate my ever-loving gratitude for the presentation. And what I would suggest is, instead of doing a reflection right now in the interest of time, for anybody who's interested to stick around after and feel free to engage in a further reflection, because I feel that in the lack of time, we wouldn't actually be able to give the credence that is really due to this wonderful presentation. Appreciate that. So what I would invite us to do at this point then is to consider what we've heard and to go forth and, do some thinking about that after the service. In light of that, then what I would do is invite you to rise as you are able and join us in our closing hymn, which is in the Teal book, 1064.
I will play through, because it has this melody, I'm playing like 64. I'm supposed to play all that, but here's the melody, so you get the melody. So, here we go. I'm just going to play it through so you can hear it. Beginning, and then I'll bring you. Here we go.
And so as we gather or go, or both, hopefully at some point, I charge us to heed the wisdom of youth and to embrace one thing that I tend to try to say almost every Sunday is our ability is there to do something, and we can all change the world. Go in peace. Please be seated for the break postlude.
by Sidney Bechet, and he was an African-American clarinetist and saxophonist who wrote, I mean, he lived like early 1900s or something, who wrote this. Yeah.
You can get up now.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm Laura.
Alice, and,
Amazing.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
But yeah, really well done. So comprehensive.
I spent a long time because I wanted to talk all about the science stuff, but then I was like, it's just gonna go one in one ear.
Well, that's the sequel.
Yeah.
Or the second level.
There's the
If you want to talk more about that,
I was talking about the ocean iron fertilization.
Yeah.
That was actually developed based on whales pooping. Like whales poop and their poop like causes animal krill and then they like poop more and it's like this like cycle that like fertilizes the ocean. It's really cool.
So what's the iron part of that?
Like in their poop.
So they filter that out?
Yeah, it's like filtered. Yeah.
So when I was your age, I wrote about that same damn thing. I see nothing has happened.
You should stop by the group.
Yeah, that's like,
Really, yeah.
yeah.
We have to have
They are doing stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know if I still have the paper. Like,
Partial up here.
I do occasionally just where like I don't need these files. That was
And I thought like fourth grade needs like dissertation on something like
that was 14 years ago. Like, well, I kind of feel old now.
Thank you for coming.
I came here for a time.
I'm glad you came.
I hope that this group does something with these, you know, and because they're always kind of pitch on the peripheral. What do we do?
Yeah. Yeah.
Pull our people together and get a focus and something, even if it's a little.